Okay, let's get started. So, my name's Derek. I'm with Stagehand, and this is another episode in what we're calling Backstage, where we've been talking to local business owners, artists, other folks that are involved in the local music industry in Calgary. So this morning I'm happy to be joined by Sylvia Johnston. Sylvia is the owner-operator of Cornerstone Music Cafe. I had the pleasure of meeting Sylvia about 3 years ago, and actually I was going to look this morning to see how many events you've now booked on Stagehand, but it's probably somewhere around 300 events, which is amazing because Cornerstone really is almost an amalgamation of businesses, I guess. You've got a cafe, catering, music lessons, a performance venue, and I'm probably forgetting other things. So anyway, welcome Sylvia. Welcome to your cafe.
Welcome to my cafe. Welcome to my home.
So, why don't we just kind of jump into it like we always do? And I don't know if I've actually even asked you this question before, but just maybe go back to the beginnings of Cornerstone Music Cafe. When did you start it? Why did you start it? Just give me a little bit of history around Cornerstone.
I tell the story a lot, so it might be long.
That's all right.
My story is that I used to, I went traveling for 3 years, over to Europe and to Africa.
Okay.
And prior to that, I had been serving, and then even when I lived in Europe, I was serving. And when I came home, I had decided I wanted to get myself a real job and make real money. And so I started working for Cornerstone Music when it was just a music studio. And I was a receptionist, and I was bored as hell sitting at a desk because I'm used to working 2 or 3 jobs and, you know, doing 20 things at once. And so between myself and the previous owner and Jim and customers, we kind of came up with this neat idea of having a cafe in the front. And that's kind of where that
And how long ago was that?
came out of. Well, that I started here in 2004 working for Keith Watson, and then in 2011 is when Jim and I purchased it and put the cafe in.
Okay.
Yeah, and
when
now
did
I
you-
am never bored,
No.
just in case you were wondering.
And when did you meet Jim?
I met Jim in 2004. I started here September 2004, and we started dating
Okay.
in December.
So just to be clear, Jim is Sylvia's
husband. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you met Jim in 2004, and was
Yeah.
he working here as well?
He was a drum teacher here. Yeah.
Okay. So you started 2004, you said 2011 you bought the
We
studio?
purchased it, yeah.
Okay. And then, so what was that like? Like what, like right now I rattled off a bunch of things that you do. What were you doing at that time? Was it more focused, or were you also doing all the things that you're doing now?
No, my life got considerably busy once we got into the cafe. To be honest, the music studio portion probably suffered a little bit because I had to put so much energy into the rest of the place. Live music was really good when we first started, for sure. Yeah.
Live music from the perspective of you were doing a lot more performances?
Yeah, I don't really know. I'm not sure. So prior to having the cafe, I was able to kind of go out more, I guess. I was able to dine out more, meet new people, see more performances. I mean, we would have been out 5 days a week.
Yeah.
But as soon as we took over the cafe, that would kind of just took over everything. And so so we just never did that kind of stuff. I mean, we didn't even really have the finances to go out,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So and what's happened is that I find is that I'm not even able to meet people anymore on a personal basis, and you know.
It's all about kind of all related to the business sort of thing.
It
where
is.
your
And
relationships
it's
come
kind of
from.
sad in that part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because it'd be nice to be able to go out and have a drink with somebody and meet somebody like I used to, not just somebody introduce themselves, hi, I'm the musician, and then play and then leave, you know?
Yeah.
So
were you doing more? Like, I think when we first started working together, you were doing 2 days a week, Friday and Saturday performances. I
Yeah.
think sometimes some Sunday events.
Yeah.
Were you doing more back in 2011 when you first started?
Yeah, we were doing Fridays and Saturdays. That's probably about it. Sometimes we did during the week if there was a special event. A lot of times musicians would come through town while on a tour, so we'd make room for them to come in on a Tuesday or Thursday night
Yeah.
to play. But otherwise, it was pretty typically 2 days a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing, I don't know if people know this about you or not, if they haven't been down here, Sylvia is an amazing cook. In fact, this morning you were already at it.
Yeah.
Is that something that you always have been enjoyed, or is that something you picked up as part of buying a cafe?
You know what? Cooking, no, I've always enjoyed it. Cooking, I come from a long line of cooks. My my grandparents both cook. I come from a farm family, so homegrown food, you know, huge gardens, that kind of thing. When I moved over to Europe, I did learn to cook lots of different foods, so that kind of expanded what my knowledge was. But I've always enjoyed it. You know, funny story, and I probably shouldn't say this on camera, but I'm going to, is that I used to get in a lot of trouble, Mom and Dad, because I used to get home after school and I would start just making things in pots and pans and I would burn things and then I'd look at the clock and it'd be, oh my God, Mom's gonna be home. So I would, rather than doing the dishes, I would put them in garbage bags and throw them in the garbage. And my dad thought my mom was crazy because she was like, your daughter is doing something with my pots. And one day she caught me. So I'm sorry. But look what I've become.
It's like, where are all these dishes going?
She one time chased me at the backyard, and anyways, it was bad. But anyways, the point of that story is I really have been like playing with food since I was probably 8 or 9.
And so if anybody, that's something I've always enjoyed is the food down here is amazing, and you're doing more of that. Or are you doing more of that now as a result of just what's happened with Corona?
It's not really changing. Because of Corona, during this summer we haven't had any sit-in until we were able to finish our renos, which we're still kind of in the middle of, but you can come and sit in now. But we've really concentrated on our food to-go fridge, which I think more people were interested in doing anyways because they really just want to take stuff home, but they want something different. So that to-go fridge has been doing really well. And we're doing a bunch of prepared foods that people can grab and go, or they can grab and sit in here. They're all in compostable containers, so it's a bit safer for us in regards to transferring germs. I don't know.
Right.
That's a little different, but.
Yeah. And I think you've got a focus on kind of local and organic. Is it true to say organic and that sort of thing?
Well, I don't want to say organic. We do bring tons of organic food in, but it isn't my focus.
Right.
My focus is definitely to support local. One of the things that once COVID did hit, a lot of these smaller businesses, and I'm looking at my product on the shelf because a lot of these smaller businesses lost their markets and that's like the places that they generally are selling at. And so I had decided that I have a place to sell this stuff. So if I'm buying from them, I'm in turn supporting them. And there's not a lot in the south for, I mean, you can go downtown to Inglewood and those places, or Kensington, and you find lots of local product, and that's kind of the place to be. In the south, there isn't a ton. And so I think it's nice to be a one-stop shop for people for good product.
And how has that gone?
It's been great.
Yeah.
It's been really, really great. I'm looking for more product too. So,
wow.
You know, if anybody has something great they want to sell, come and have a chat because I really am interested in supporting our economy, and not just Calgary but Canada. I'm doing my best to purchase from Canadian and Calgarian businesses.
Yeah, that's great. So how else has the business changed since 2011 when you took it over? Are you doing more music lessons? Are you doing more food? I'm just sort of curious how it's evolved.
I think right now I've really so in regards to the kitchen, I've kind of stepped away a little bit. I have a chef who comes in and for the most part does most stuff. Today I'm in pickling. I have tons of pickling to do this week and next, but she basically takes care of the cafe, and I'm really putting all my energy into the music portion of it. It's so important for me right now to support my musicians because they have been hit hard. And so how I can support them is making sure that I have work for them. So we are hustling to keep them busy. And we're doing things that we haven't had to do before, but we're working hard to make sure that my teachers, and I have 40 of them.
40?
Yeah, I have 40 of them.
Wow.
So we're working hard to make sure that they have a paycheck.
And we talked a little bit about this before we turned on the camera here, but you mentioned that a lot of remote teaching now, or is it almost all remote teaching now?
No, we're sitting at about 50% of our students want to do remote.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have it kind of set up. We have a system where our students can come in, half the time in studio to get that in person, and then the remainder online, which I think is great because they get that really important one-on-one with somebody, but they're still able to maintain their instruction online. It's been going great. Our teachers have really adapted, which is amazing.
So that is that up year over year from last year? I'm curious what's happening in this whole music education space, because it seems like there's a lot of online alternatives where you can, from Fender, you can buy a course or bass lessons online. But I'm curious, like, whether it's live and in person or a live person. I'm curious if that business is growing as well.
It's such a tough one. Right now, my numbers are definitely down from where they were pre-COVID. But I actually think we're doing really, really well for where we are right now. And the reason, what I'm comparing to is speaking to other owners of music studios and speaking to my teachers and other places that they're teaching. I'm able to get a good idea of how we're doing and how we're running things. The biggest thing that I've heard from our teachers is that how much they appreciate how we had our shit together when it happened, because some studios just shut down. They're like, we're going to shut down for 2 weeks. We'll call you when we reopen.
Right.
Like just completely delirious about things, unfortunately. But the thing is that affects your clientele, that affects your teachers, and so I kind of went off topic there. The point of this story is that I think we're doing better than I had expected. Yeah. I also know that we are, I think we're going to get busier as people start seeing that we're doing this well. Yeah. Yeah. So good. And there's so much unknown out there right now that people don't know if they want to start up right now. They're scared with school. They're scared about finances. There's just so much to be unsure about. Yeah. But I think we can do this. We got to support, like I said, we have to support local. Yeah. I'm local. So
let's talk a little bit about your background with music. We mentioned Jim, obviously your husband, and Jim is a professional musician, drummer. But what about yourself? Are you a musician as well?
Funny story. It's not funny. I actually grew up in a family of musicians, very good musicians, country, a few rockers in there. But I wasn't a musician growing up. I just had music in my life all the time. And when I went traveling, I bought myself a guitar and was self-taught guitar. So I have a few songs under my belt, and I do like to play a little. Unfortunately, since I've opened or took over Cornerstone, I have not picked up that guitar, which is really, really unfortunate when I'm in the business I am. But having a 6-year-old and a business doesn't leave much time for me. So that's where that's at. I love music. Yeah.
So you've obviously hosted probably thousands of performances here. I've been to a number of them. I've seen Amy Bishop here. Anybody that's seen Amy Bishop, she's got such a big, amazing voice, just fills the space. But the other, probably one of the really memorable ones for me was Semko, because growing up in Saskatoon, the Northern Pikes were a big thing. Actually, I remember the day that I saw, because we get little notifications when musicians sign up for Stagehand, and I remember seeing Semko pop up as a new user on Stagehand, and I'm thinking, not DJ Semko, like he's like, come on. And sure enough, he was booking a gig here at Cornerstone. So that was probably one of my my brother and I came down and we saw him play a solo gig. It was really cool. But I'm curious, from your perspective, you must have seen thousands of events. Any that really stand out for you for whatever reason?
I have a couple. Semko is definitely a favorite. Amy Bishop is another favorite. Jocelyn and Lisa, back in the day when they played together,
yes.
Were a favorite.
Yep.
Tom Phillips is a favorite. Carolyn Harley, another favorite.
Yeah.
And the reason they're my favorites is because they really remind me of what I grew up with. So when they come and play in here, I feel like I'm in my home and having family together performing.
Right.
They're the kind of musicians that are so comfortable with themselves that they perform, people sing along with them.
Yep.
They tell great stories, everybody laughs, everybody cries.
Yep.
And love it.
That's and it's interesting that you mentioned that, because we, like I say, I was sort of starstruck by Semko. Yet when he was here, we chatted with him between sets, and talked about the fact that I think they ran a family farm just outside of Saskatoon. His dad was a golf pro. I think he's a good golfer as well. Anyhow, it's so funny, and that's what I love so much about local music, is the fact that you can come here and hear somebody like Amy Bishop or Jay or Tom Phillips, but you also can chat with them between sets, and you realize that they're very much like us, even though we sometimes kind of put them on this pedestal. It's like, they're a big musician.
Sometimes the musicians put themselves on pedestals.
Is that right?
And if I have anything to say to any new musicians, is stop taking yourself so seriously and enjoy this gift you've been given.
Yeah.
Because if like that connection that I just described with those other musicians, that's so precious, and that's what makes me want to sit and listen. But somebody just sitting and talking like they're talking to just themselves.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I think newer musicians feel so nervous and feel like they need to be somebody, and they just need to be themselves.
Yeah.
And that's
I
makes
think
a huge difference.
Yeah, authenticity. You can't fake that,
Nope.
And I think that's a good way to put it. If you're, comfortable with yourself, like, show us yourself, and I think that's what people really want to see, and that's what creates really genuine moments.
Yeah. Well, and if they fill rooms.
Right.
There's no questions asked. The few musicians that I just mentioned have never played to an empty room in here. It's always packed with people standing outside the door, faces pressed in, trying to watch, and they play a lot, and their shows are always like that. So that says a lot in itself.
So there's been lots of challenges lately. Obviously, COVID and the pandemic has created all kinds of challenges for you, but I knew you long before COVID, and you're probably one of the busiest people I know. In fact, I think all small business owners are wearing lots of hats and incredibly busy. What's one of the hardest things about running a business like this?
Oh, such a long list. One of the biggest things that I struggle with is trying to do everything.
Yeah.
And during COVID, even though music lessons continued on, we decided just to shut the cafe down until we figured out what we were going to do. And having that, it was 3 months break, I really had an opportunity to take a look at what I was doing right and what I was doing wrong. And I'm really moving forward. We're just going to try and be a bit smarter. Yes, I don't want to be working as hard as I was, basically. I want to work a bit smarter. And so that's kind of our goal. And I think lots of people struggle with that. And one of my biggest pet peeves with businesses, and I recognize that I do this is that I think we need to be good at everything we do, not just one thing. But it's really hard to do everything good if you're doing too much. You can't put enough.
Jack of all trades.
Yeah, and I mean, it's good to have those skills and to be able to do lots of things, but you have to be in a position where you can do them all well. And I just wasn't doing that. And one of the biggest things and the reason I'm in this business is because I love dealing with people. I love dealing with the public. I love talking to people. I love having conversation. And I got so busy that I just didn't even enjoy that because I just had too much, I'm going to swear, too much shit to do. And that was my biggest takeaway, is that I needed to rethink about what we were doing and how we were doing it. And that's our goal right now, is to get back to community, which is what we've always based our business on. And
where are you at on that continuum? Are you finding?
I think we're doing well.
Yeah.
The biggest thing when we first opened the doors was I had to have somebody working with me, because I just sat and talked every day, all day to people. I had no voice at the end because people couldn't wait to come in and talk. And that feels good. It feels good to know that people missed you and want to chat with you. And
so that leads into the next point. Maybe you've already kind of alluded to this, but what do you love most about running a business like this?
The people.
Yeah.
I
so
love
customers, teachers.
The customers, my teachers, my employees. I love I know you're not supposed to be friends with your employees, but we are. We all have really good relationships, and we have fun. We joke around a lot. Sometimes we get angry at each other, that's my favorite part of it.
Let's just talk about, maybe back to the whole music side of things. And I don't know, I talked a little bit about kind of how I was excited when I saw Semko sign up for the platform. But anybody that's a really kind of, I don't know if hero is too strong a term, but on the music side of things, anybody that you really are kind of in awe of, that you might describe as your music hero? Or
there's a lot. You spoke earlier about Lisa Jacobs.
Right.
I have a huge appreciation for her. Another one, the band Over the Moon. I have a huge appreciation for them. They do what they love to do, and they do it as a couple. They live a pretty, I think, a pretty ordinary life from what I can see on social media. They're wholesome. They still follow their dreams, and I just have a huge appreciation for that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What about if we look outside of the Calgary scene? Any kind of, let's call it, big name acts that...
Everyone's going to laugh when I say this, but I love William Prince.
Okay.
I just love him. Everything about him.
Yeah.
He's the best. Come play for us, please. He's just wonderful. I cry almost every song he plays.
Really?
Just out of love. It's not because it's sad and depressing, it's because I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. What about let's call it an unsung hero in the local music scene? There are so many people that are working so hard behind the scenes, and we often focus on the front person or the headliner, but we all know that there's so many people behind the scenes making that happen. Anybody that jumps to mind of a unsung hero that you might like to call out?
I think there's a lot of them, to be honest. I have a customer by the name of Greg Halpin and his wife Jackie. They put a lot of time and money into the music business, not just here but throughout Calgary. I think people like Kevin Warren, who most people know, put a lot of time and energy into the music community. Honestly, there's a lot out there, but those are the two that kind of come to my mind at the moment.
So we haven't talked a lot about the pandemic, and that's probably just fine. There's been a lot said about the pandemic, but we are going through this phase right now, which is a challenging phase for a lot of people. But I'm curious, just if you look at what maybe gives you kind of hope or excites you about the local music scene, anything that jumps to mind as to what keeps you going, what keeps you pursuing?
Not really anything in particular. I do think that when things like this happen, it's an opportunity to seek out change. And I know change is really hard, but change can be good. And I'm kind of excited to see what comes out of all of this. Whether our communities get stronger, whether people recognize that they need to get out a little bit more and support the music community when we kind of get past the initial part of this. Those are kind of things that I hope to see. Obviously it's the future and I can't see into the future, but if those are some of the things that would come out of it, I'd be happy for that. Mm-hmm. Change is good.
Yeah.
Things need to evolve. I have a dream. If I had lots of money, if anyone wants to work with me on that, I would love to have a system where we have a bigger space with a stage and have a really nice sound system that it can be live.
Yeah.
But still have the performance, like people can still come and watch it personally, but also have the ability to actually sell it online as well. Maybe for a small fee, people can, log in and watch from their home. Mm-hmm. And then those recordings can all be, they can be recorded and kept as well. Yep. I think that's a really neat thing to do. We have always done live performances. Well, we kind of stopped for a little bit because I had a few musicians who said that they weren't comfortable with it, which is fair enough. But I think that we are in this time that everything's going to be recorded, and I think that's what I would like to see. That's going to take a lot of work because a room needs to sound good, and you need to have it set up well, but I think that would be ideal. Yeah. Because then you can still fill your room and you can still do, and you guys do it, even you guys having your tipping option, that is just such a neat way to do things. I mean, if I was at home when I had Eddie, I still have Eddie, but when he was baby, and I couldn't go to a show, how nice would it have been to plop it on my TV and still be able to watch that show? I just think it works in so many situations. Yeah, and we have been starting to experiment with that, just with respect to live performance and what works, and the experiment right now is how many people would come and how many people would subscribe, and can you make a business out of that? Because at the end of the day, as you know, as well as anybody, you need to be able to sustain that on an ongoing basis. And so those are the kinds of experiments that we've been looking at as well. The disadvantage to things being live is depending on people's internet at their house, or those kinds of things can really affect somebody's experience. So really having a good quality video would be
But like you say, so
Good.
much of that is changing
Yeah.
these days, and even the sound quality you can get out of your phone these days is
Totally.
incredible compared to where it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Great. Well,
Yeah.
Sylvia, it's been a pleasure. Like I say, I think we've worked together for about 3 years or so. You are one of the real early adopters, and always sort of appreciated your willingness to jump right in and work with us and work with the platform and give us an opportunity to learn as well. And so I've appreciated that. It's been a pleasure having an opportunity to chat with you again. It's not like we haven't chatted in the past, but this is sort of the first time we've actually captured it on tape. So.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that,
Yeah.
and I wish you all the best with all the changes that you're making and this evolution through COVID, and look forward to continue working with you.
Yeah, ditto. I agree. Can I just say quickly on camera that if you know of any musicians you haven't heard from for a while, reach out, say hello, make sure everyone's doing okay. Tough time for a lot
Absolutely.
of people.
Yeah, it's an incredibly tough time for a lot of musicians, and
Yeah.
so yeah, that's great advice. So
Yeah.
thanks
Thank you,
again,
Karen.
Sylvia. Take care.